Motivation and preparation led to a new sensation, new creation. That's what you're facing. Now watch my elevation.
Next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros is, would a victory over Usyk make Anthony Joshua a legend, and would a loss make him a hype job? So Anthony Joshua was giving an interview to ESPN, and he said that if he beats Usyk, he'd get the admiration he deserves, and he would become a true boxing legend. And then there are people in the YouTube community, some YouTube channels that are arguing that if Anthony Joshua loses to Alexander Usyk again, he would be nothing more than a UK hype job. So I'm gonna turn it over to you, Conspira G. What's your reaction to all that? What do you think?
All right, with the first question, if he beats Usyk, would he be a legend? No. I think if he beats Tyson Fury, he'll be a legend. No. If he loses to Usyk, would that mean he's a hype job? No, because although Usyk is smaller, Usyk has demonstrated that this guy is extremely talented and he has amazing skills. So losing to a Usyk doesn't, take away from AJ's, impressive career. But, winning or defeating a Usyk doesn't make him legendary status. You know what I mean? Like, I think, though, Tyson Fury, if he beats Tyson Fury, that would be legendary status because of how Tyson Fury defeated Wilder and because of the long history, the bad blood between AJ and Wilder, that if AJ could dominate Fury, then I think like legendary status will be like that crown would be given to AJ, especially if AJ gets through Usyk and then it becomes a undisputed unification match between him and Fury. That's when you become legendary. But to lose to Usyk, I don't believe AJ should be labeled a hype job. And this is another thing too, to kind of piggyback off of the last segment, when everyone's, well, not everyone, but a lot of AJ's critics are saying this is his last chance. I honestly don't believe that, because the heavyweight division isn't as stacked as other divisions, right? Like 147, like the lightweight division, even the middleweight divisions. These divisions have so many characters that it's like, okay, there's enough guys where they're really fighting for supremacy. In the heavyweight division, there's essentially like really 3-4 guys, And so if AJ loses, there's the other guys, I don't even see them beating AJ, right? So that doesn't mean he's over with, just like even with Wilder losing to Fury, I don't think Wilder's career is over either, like, because a lot of these guys can't beat Wilder, so like as long as you're in the top 5 in the heavyweight division, I think you're in a comfortable space where that means at any time you could bounce back. At any time you could beat the top dog, Go ahead, man.
What about his music career?
Yeah, we're talking about boxing right now, but I mean, anything's possible out here in the universe. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, I think, and these it's like these type of like comments and questions, I think that really eats at AJ, right? Go ahead, Kate.
What about his acting career, G?
God bless him. Everybody make money. Everybody make money, man. But back to that.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to leave that.
What about his twerking career?
I don't know. What about it? You tell us, Ned. You tell us. Go ahead. Exactly. All right. So, but essentially what I'm saying is this. I think AJ and even people around AJ that are invested in AJ are putting too much pressure on themselves about this fight. Even if AJ loses, it doesn't mean he's completely done for. Like, especially in the UK, come on, man. Dillian White, we done seen this dude get violated time after time after time. Chisora get violated time after time after time. And these dudes still selling out arenas. AJ is a way bigger star than both those gentlemen. He can always bounce back, bro. Like, this guy has a cookie cutter image that you will want a heavyweight champion to be. So even if he loses all his belts to center third, they could still find a way to market and brand AJ in the right way to get him back to the top. Even if he has no belts, people will still want to see AJ versus Wilder. You know, people, it's just this. I feel like people putting too much into these belts even at time. People just want to see great matchups. As long as AJ's in good fights, which so far in his career, he's done that. Like, this is the one thing I can't take away from AJ. He's been in great fights. Just keep doing that. When you're in great fights, there's a strong chance you're going to lose, right? So it's like, hey, if AJ loses this fight, he lost to Usyk, bro. Like, imagine if Usyk then goes against Fury and beats Fury. That loss doesn't look that bad. You know what I mean? It's just like if Fury beats AJ, right, then Wilder losing to Fury doesn't look that bad either.
It already doesn't look that bad because of what Fury did to Dillian.
Yeah, exactly. So I think as long as you're in the top 5, there's always a chance that you can still bounce back to the top. So AJ's in good position, Usyk's in good position, Wilder's in good position, Tyson Fury's in good position. So a win or a loss, I don't think is really going to decimate these guys' careers.
All right. Trill Dollar Bill.
Hold on. Let me get my notes. Because the last episode, I was going to follow the bouncing ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's not over for AJ if he loses, like Barry said. I was pausing for dramatic effect.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, sometimes the best notes are the shortest one.
Nah, definitely. Would a victory over Usyk make AJ a legend? Yeah, you would have to throw him in there. 3-time world heavyweight world champion, right? You have to throw that. That's a big accolade, right? 3 times, right? Then you said, would a loss make him a hype job? No, because then you would have to say that Usyk is not good, and we all know that that is not the truth, right? Come on, guys. So definitely, no, it would not make him a hype job. And the fact of the matter is, everything is. Do we have amnesia? I think that's what we have in boxing, right? We have amnesia in boxing. You know what I'm saying? And we forget everything that this young man has accomplished before. You know, everything, all the adversity that he had to go through before. You know, so he's going in there again. He didn't tie his tail between his legs and say, I'm going to go and get an easy touch, or I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do some acting. I'm going to do, you know, he didn't do that. You know, he got right back in the gym. He wants to get better, and he wants to go out there and prove that, you know, he could be 3-time world champion. What's wrong with that? What's wrong? People just hate for no reason, man. They just hate, you know? They just hate for no reason. Like I always tell my brothers, man, it's not what's right, it's who's liked. You know? So it's not right what he's doing. He's showing you that he cares about this sport. He's showing you that he wants to get better. If he loses, he just lost to the better man. But like G was saying, there's still other fights out there for him, you know? And it's not the ending. It's not the end. It's not the end for AJ if he loses. Definitely not. And he's definitely not no hype job. Just because he loses to a great fighter, he's a hype job.
That's the new boxing, bro. That's the new boxing world. TVE.
If AJ wins over Usyk, I don't think it makes him a legend. I think this fight is not going to go talked about. I feel this fight is a lose-lose fight for AJ. I feel if he wins, you can't really gloat about him beating Usyk because of the situation with Usyk, the situation in Ukraine, which it's like we're not like the world is not against Ukraine. You feel me? And if Usyk wins, this will have the whole world rally behind him. But AJ, if you lose, this does not make you a high job, and it just makes you you just have to find another path to success. But if AJ wins, I just think it just solidifies him back again as one of our greats in boxing. And Usyk is great in the sport as well. And this is just a tough matchup, and it's terrible timing, but it happened. It happened, and Let's make it work.
For me, if Anthony Joshua beats Alexander Usyk, excuse me, he would be a legend because that would mean that he beat Vladimir Klitschko and he beat Alexander Usyk, right? And he beat the best contenders in his era, which were guys like Joseph Parker, Dillian White. Kubrat Pulev was older, still beat him. Alexander Povetkin, but before you write off Povetkin, look at what he did to Dillian White as well. He fought the best of his time, which is what you want someone to do. But in also fighting the best of your time, you have to beat the greats of your time. Who are the greats of his time? At least in the heavyweight division, Klitschko and Alexander Usyk. And I'm going to tell you why Alexander Usyk is a great. Because Alexander Usyk was a gold medalist, undisputed at cruiserweight, like Evander Holyfield, and moved up to heavyweight and became unified champion, like Evander, although Evander was undisputed, but Usyk has a chance of doing that. So to act like it's unprecedented for a heavyweight to lose to a guy who moved up from cruiserweight is just not being realistic. Mike Tyson's a great. It happened to him. Even a great Lennox Lewis drawed with Evander Holyfield, although if you were watching that fight, that was no draw. But still, the point I'm making is you can't just tarnish AJ because a guy from cruiserweight beat him. Because that's been happening throughout the history of boxing. So Usyk is a great. And if he beats Usyk, he deserves it. Let's talk about Tyson Fury, who's retired now and wants $500 million to even step in the ring with Usyk. What's up with that? No one says anything about that. That's acceptable, right? He wants $500,000 to fight Usyk or even Joshua. But let's talk about what Tyson Fury has done. And if you watch this channel, you know I really like Tyson Fury. I'm a Tyson Fury guy. And just because I'm calling Tyson Fury out on this doesn't even mean that I wouldn't pick Tyson Fury in these fights. But it has to be said, he beat Deontay Wilder, whom he himself has said is the most flawed heavyweight and only has one weapon. And then he did that twice, and he defended his title against Dillian White, a guy who we've seen Anthony Joshua beat, Alexander Povetkin beat. Right? Surely, no one's going to argue that Dillian White's a world beater. Those are his two. And he got Klitschko. I'll give him that. He got Klitschko. But what separates him from any of these other guys? What would separate these guys is that they fought each other. So, Wilder, on the other hand, to me, is a better victory than I originally gave him credit for. Because when I see what he did to Dillian, if you're going to give anyone credit for Dillian, you got to give Fury credit for Wilder. Because Wilder dropped Fury 4 times in their 3 fights, and Dillian couldn't put a glove on him. So, and Wilder, 10 title defenses, and perhaps in the history of boxing, Wilder didn't get his just due. So I can admit that, but we still need to see Wilder fight other people. What we have is Wilder and Fury who need to prove themselves against other people. We have Joshua who's fought the most stacked resume to me. So he lost to Usyk, but Usyk is a great, like Trill said. So now what we have is if he loses to Usyk, but what he's losing is his chance to say he's the best of his era, perhaps. But is he finished? No. He wouldn't be able to argue, I'm the best heavyweight of my era if he loses to Usyk. Because Usyk's going to have 2 dubs on him with no reason to ever fight him again. So, in essence, if he wants the argument that I'm the best of my era, he loses that argument if he loses to Usyk. But if he wins, does it make him a legend? I think it makes him a legend. Champion in 16 fights. Took a L, one of 4 people to win it back in an immediate rematch. He's going in immediate rematches. People don't even give credit for that. the mental toughness it takes to fall and lose and go right back to that situation immediately. When people judge AJ, how many people like fail an exam and they won't take it again? You know, they need a few cycles, or so many losing something small that doesn't even involve combat and they don't want to go back to it again. That's why you gotta respect Wilder with Tyson Fury. In the way he lost, in the way he came back. He lost again. He got knocked out cold, but you know what? He fought his ass off. That's all you can ask for. So if AJ loses, is he a hype job? No, he's not a hype job. Hype jobs don't go back into immediate rematches. How many hype jobs you know take immediate rematches? I'm telling you, I've never seen it. We were watching Jessica McCaskill fight last night. She fought a woman who was fighting for undisputed belts. Went back to a corner, wasn't even hurt, and said, I want to go home.
To my daughter. Crazy.
To my daughter, I want to go home. In an undisputed fight where she was perfectly fine. But you're going to call AJ a hype job. You're going to call Anthony Joshua a hype job. How many dudes you seen talk that talk, but when they were in the same position as the fighters they were talking trash about, they stayed on the stoop? Not these guys. They're not hype jobs. They champions. So if AJ loses, he just loses the right to say he's the best fighter of his era. His career is not finished. You've seen Vladimir Klitschko recover from taking devastating losses to become champion again, and nobody hated on him. Evander Holyfield has done it. George Foreman has done it. He can do it too. So a roundabout way, if he wins, does it make him a legend? To me, yes, because the quality of opponents he would have beaten. But if he loses, is he a hype job? No. He's just not the best of his era.
I agree with you on the hype job portion, but I have to provide some pushback about if he beats Usyk, he gets legendary status. When I think legendary status in boxing, you think of like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, right? Like even like Lennox Lewis. You could think when you think of those names, those are like legendary, right? But a lot of their legendary status is due to the way the media promoted their careers. Usyk doesn't have that type of promotion. He has the accolades, but he doesn't have the visibility. The only person really in the heavyweight division outside of AJ that has that is Tyson Fury. So he would have to beat Tyson Fury to inherit legendary status in this era of heavyweight boxing. Beating Usyk that's a great accomplishment, you know. But you already lost to Usyk also. You know what I mean? The only guy that's undefeated, no one has blemished this guy's record, is that guy Tyson Fury. He has an unchallenged record. If AJ could do that, this is the guy again. He stopped the Klitschko's 10-year reign. That was Tyson Fury that did that. Wilder's a mixed bag because some people were like, "Yo, this guy is a monster." Other people saying he's a hype job, but nonetheless, Wilder's a known commodity, right? So people know Wilder's a dangerous guy. If he lands, regardless of his skill, you're most likely gonna die. You know what I'm saying? And Tyson Fury got him out the way. I think the only guy left is Tyson Fury that will give AJ that crown of legendary status. Beating Usyk is a great accomplishment, but you know, Usyk is a smaller guy. People still, and you know, the naysayers will be like, "Oh, he's still just a cruiserweight, just a little puffy now." You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. That's why I don't know. Legendary status just seems like such a high accolade that it's like, you know, you really gonna get that to AJ because of Usyk? You know what I'm saying? That has to go to Tyson Fury. That's all I'm saying.
My response would be you're holding AJ to an unrealistic standard. You name Lennox Lewis. I saw Lennox Lewis lose to Oliver McCall.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver McCall's no Olympic gold medalist. Oliver McCall wasn't a great. Oliver McCall is just a guy who knocked Lennox Lewis out cold one day. Mm-hmm. In the rematch, Oliver McCall was crying, didn't even want to be in the ring, like was mentally gone. And then there's evidence that suggests Oliver McCall was addicted to drugs and a bunch of other things. That's who knocked out Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis was also knocked out cold by Hakeem Rahman. No Olympic gold medalist, nowhere near as decorated as, say, Alexander Usyk.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue AJ's 2 losses are better than Lennox Lewis' 2 losses. You want to say some Trill? Go ahead real quick.
I just wanted to say, can anybody name the other? There's only been one other 3-time world heavyweight champion.
Muhammad Ali.
How does that not put you in legendary?
Hey, bro, I was getting there. Muhammad Ali lost to Leon Spinks when he had like 7 professional fights, lost to Trevor Berbick, right? And nobody questions his greatness because you look at what he achieved at the peak of his powers.
But that's I think we're still saying the same thing, because remember when I said Ali, Tyson, Lewis, right? They have a story, right? And AJ's story is kind of muddied because it's like, hey, is AJ a hype job? Is he a manufacturing of Eddie Hearn, right? That's like a real story that affects his career. And then we know it affects AJ because he thinks about the pressures and all of that stuff, right? So it's like, how can he overcome that? By defeating that dude that is like who's self-proclaimed king of the heavyweight division right now.
He did it. He did it by his resume. I don't believe that.
Come on, Trill. Marketing plays a factor.
Marketing does, but he still had to get in the ring and fight those fights.
No, I agree. I'm just saying.
You know what I'm saying? That like if you really look at his resume, out of the guys, his resume stacks up there with these guys. Like I get it, people don't like this guy, man, but you got to give him his props when credit is due. Him being a 3-time world champion, that's nothing to scoff at. You know what I'm saying? Especially going up against he's fighting the fighters of his generation. We're not comparing him to that's like us saying about Jordan. Jordan was playing against Bird, Magic, and all these. You know what I'm saying? This is his different era. And he's competing against the guys in the era of the fighters that he had to. And to become 3-time heavyweight champion when there's only one other guy, the greatest to ever do it, you got to give him some type of something for that.
And just to ride off what you just said, Trill, Drake has some lyrics, and in one of his songs, he says, they like to take greats and compare us.
Yeah.
I wonder if they could survive in this era where all the media take your skeletons and put them in front of everyone. Like Jordan didn't have to go through that. LeBron James is heavily scrutinized at a level Jordan was never scrutinized at, and with unrealistic expectations. Let's look at the teams LeBron James had to face. Kevin Durant, MVP. James Harden, MVP. Russell Westbrook, MVP. Serge Ibaka, Defensive Player of the Year. These guys were all on the same team. Bron had to play against them. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala. A lot of really good players on the same team. Then they added Kevin Durant. So then they added him. People going to say, oh, well, Bron's not as good as Jordan because he lost in the finals 4 times. Without asking this question, which would be a more realistic question, if you remove LeBron James and added Michael Jordan to the teams LeBron had to play with against Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, who people say is the best shooting backcourt in the history of the game, Kevin Durant, a top 75 player, Draymond Green, Defensive Player of the Year, would Michael Jordan have won those championships? I would say he wouldn't, because he couldn't beat the Celtics until he got Pippen. He couldn't beat the Celtics. Got swept by the Celtics. Got whooped by the bad boy Pistons until they got old and broken up. So the point I'm making is people like to have revisionist history. They like to make it seem like Jordan only played for 6 years and he never lost in the finals. But in reality, he played more seasons and he got swept and spanked by Isaiah Thomas, Magic, Bird, and all those other guys. And much like Michael Jordan got spanked, if you look up the history books, Tyson got spanked by Buster Douglas. Remember, Anthony Joshua has one of the worst heavyweight losses in the history of boxing, but it still isn't as bad as Mike Tyson in Japan against James Buster Douglas. That's the worst loss in the history of boxing. Mike Tyson's still a legend, though.
Exactly. He already established his legendary status.
Not really. He was young. Mike was young when that happened.
No, but what I'm saying is Mike's youth, right? Like think about it, like Belenga, right? They want him to be the new Puerto Rican Tyson, right? Because
He
Tyson,
wants to be G. He wants to be the Puerto Rican
well,
Tyson.
that's what Top Rank want him to be, right? So because what Tyson was doing at such a young age was just like, this is phenomenal. Like this dude is a specimen. You know what I mean, that's what propelled him to legendary status, you know. But think about it. Klitschko literally reigned the heavyweight division for 10 years. And nobody goes, yo, Klitschko is up there with these guys. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because I'm not gonna say
But he is. But he
no,
is.
he's not.
You call Klitschko a legend.
Who does it?
No. What I'm saying, no.
Who doesn't say that?
Maybe. So then maybe our definitions of legendary status is different. You know what I mean? Like he is a great. He's one of the greats. But when I think legendary, it's like it's like the Mount Rushmore. You know what I'm saying? Like who are the guys that you think of when you think heavyweight champions of all time? That's legendary status. I don't think AJ inherits that status by beating Usyk. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And a lot of it is marketing, branding. Some stuff may factor into what happens in the ring. Some stuff or what happens outside the ring. But there's a lot of things that go into it. And beating a guy like Usyk, who, and I don't want to sound like I'm talking like Tyson Fury, but I agree with Tyson Fury to an extent. A guy who's fairly unknown here in the Western world, who doesn't speak English, as accomplished as Usyk is, he was fairly unknown. This is what his third. This is about to be his fourth fight in the heavyweight division. You see what I'm saying? Like it's just I don't know. There's levels to this. You know what I mean? The only guy as popular as AJ right now is Tyson Fury. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
But this ain't a popularity contest. This is about who's good.
No, but think about this. So let me ask you a question, Trill. Why is Mike Tyson a legend?
Because he was one of the youngest. He's the youngest heavyweight champion.
You see, but that doesn't mean he was the best, though. You see what I'm saying?
He was at that time, and he was the youngest to do it. And then you got to think of the people that he was fighting. You know what I'm saying? His resume at that time, and the people that he cleared out. You know.
If I can though for a second, let me just add some points because I want to make some points to what G said before, but the kind of turned to open forum. Just to respond to what G said, Lennox Lewis had bad L's, but he had great victories over Evander Holyfield, over Mike Tyson, for example, and even over Vitaly Klitschko. Although he left during that era because he got that win because of a cut, he didn't want to give Vitaly a rematch. Lennox was out. That started the era of Vitaly and Vladimir Klitschko. Mm-hmm. Lennox left. 2004 said, I'm out. Was gone. So he got two bad L's, but he has wins that make him a legend, right? You look at Mike Tyson. You're bringing up Mike Tyson, but you're forgetting that's the early part of his career. He was taking these guys out early, right? And Lennox was still there. Lennox wasn't doing as much as Tyson when Tyson first started because Tyson was in his prime earlier than Lennox. They met later on in Mike Tyson's career when Lennox was actually peaking and Tyson was crashing. Tyson's stock was crashing down like some bad crypto. You know what I'm saying? That's that. And Lennox beat him, and you give him credit for that. And the world gives him credit for that. Yet Anthony Joshua was fighting an Oleksandr Uysk, whose stock is rising, who went undisputed at cruiserweight, beating some really good guys. Breedis, Tony Bellew, those are some really good cruiserweights. You know, and then he goes up to heavyweight and he beats Derek Chisora. Beating Derek Chisora, that's legitimate. That's a legitimate gatekeeper right there. And it's not like and Usyk followed that act up by beating Anthony Joshua. So, and Anthony Joshua has beaten so many good fighters on his resume that you can't downplay Usyk. Look at Usyk. Usyk is gold medalist. Usyk is undisputed.
I'm not downplaying Usyk. I'm strictly making an argument about legendary status, you know, and so and that's why I'm saying I don't want to sound like I'm hating on Usyk when I'm actually not. It's just when you're thinking of like this era, like if we had a time capsule right now, and then we fast forwarded to 100 years right now, like the most like the two guys that you'll be thinking about would be AJ and Tyson Fury right now, you know, and then secondary would be Wilder and Usyk. But the top 2 guys right now is AJ and Fury. So to me, if you want legendary status of this era, you got to defeat Tyson Fury. That was my argument, you know, and it's not to downplay Usyk, just like it's not to downplay Wilder. Like if Fury beat Wilder, doesn't make him automatically a legend. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, Fury's gonna have to beat AJ to get that legendary status. You know, so that was the argument that I was making. But I see what y'all are saying. But that's I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying Usyk at all. I'm not hating on Usyk. So please, people, don't start commenting talking about yo, how dare you, G? I'm not doing that.
It's just who cares? Look,
I'm just saying those 2 guys right now, the creme de la creme of the division. They need to duke it out for a legendary status.
This is where we shift though, because yes, but there have been times where like Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis didn't duke it out. They're both considered legends. Now Lennox, you know, is above Riddick on most people's list, and he's above Riddick on my list. But it's about what he went on to do that Riddick didn't go on to do, because Riddick left the sport before Lennox did. So it's accomplishments based. When you talk strictly on resume, if Anthony Joshua beats Usyk, he's a legend. Strictly on the resume. When you look at the people he's beat, when you look at what he's accomplished, remember he was champion in his 16th fight. Champion in his 16th fight. This is going to be his 12th title fight in a row. His 12th. So, and like Trill said, if he wins, he's a 3-time champ now with Muhammad Ali. 3-time heavyweight champion. Like the mental toughness it takes to do that, the belief in yourself it takes to do that. He's going to be a legend if he does that. And like you said about Usyk, if Usyk beats Anthony Joshua, to me, he is a legend now, which is the flip side that nobody else is talking about. If he beats Anthony Joshua again, he proves it wasn't a fluke, gold medalist, undisputed at cruiserweight, and I beat the man who collected all these belts twice. And I want the other guy, but he wants $500,000 to even entertain me.
Duck talk, like G would say.
That's all I gotta say.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. We are the Boxing Bros.